Fallen Earth, the long-running MMO that has been offline for the past 2 years, has been brought back online. It's a game that I didn't play when it was available. Totally remiss on my part, since the game was released in 2009 and it's been there all that time. It's something that's always intrigued me. Bit Fallout-esque, definitely taking cues from things like the Wasteland series. And as sometimes happens, when something is there, it's something you always are going to get around to, and then you never do, and then it goes away. Basically, the company that was running the game, Gamers First, was bought out, or their IPs were taken up by Little Orbit. And at that time, the company decided that the game needed rejigging. It had always been a game that never had a huge player base and plenty of bugs reported, servers with many issues, duping bugs that played havoc with the game's economy and things. So when Little Orbit took over, Matt Scott, the CEO of that company, decided to take the servers offline. That was in 2018. And since then they've been offline. Then just recently, before Christmas I think it was, he decided that in the spirit of fun, according to the press release, he's going to make the old servers available again for people to play on while they work on a new version of the game. And that's very exciting for fans, but obviously people were still wanting access to those old servers. The characters that people had are gone. It's a fresh start. So it's an opportunity to jump into an older MMO, check it out, and maybe there's the possibility that we're going to get a new version of this IP sometime in the future. But really for me, what I wanted to do was jump in and just see if this game holds up in 2022, what it's like. I think it's worth doing because it has a uniqueness to it. There are not many multiplayer post-apocalyptic games. It's interesting in that there was a Fallout game, like a proper Fallout MMO muted back in the day. Interplay, I think, was going to produce that game, but it never came to be. And since then, of course, we've had Fallout 76, Fallout's actual first attempt at multiplayer. Anyone familiar with basic MMO tropes and how most of those games function will immediately be at home with Fallen Earth. However, there are some things markedly missing, and this is something that was unique when the game came out, and it's still unique. The fact that there's no tab targeting. You do need to target your enemies, and surprisingly for me, I was actually very pleased with how that felt, particularly with the ranged weapons. Ranged combat is always weird in MMOs when there's tab targeting going on and it's dice rolls under the hood. How authentic that feels. Even something like Fallout 76 can feel like, well, I'm aiming here, but it doesn't really matter because it's all down to the dice rolls. In this game, you definitely do feel like you're aiming at the enemy, and there's a lot of satisfaction with actually taking the enemies out. They do some pretty over-the-top ragdolling when you knock the guys over. It's quite fun to do the ranged combat. The melee combat less so for me. For some reason, doesn't seem to have the same impact. But so from the very start, you can see the uniqueness in how they've decided to approach the MMO genre. My favorite game, Star Wars Galaxies, uses a system for ranged combat that is very, it's never been particularly, it doesn't feel like FPS shooty combat. This actually does a better job of getting closer to something that, even though it's MMO under the hood, feels rather responsive, and it's really good in that respect. The other unique thing about Fallen Earth is the fact that it has it's a level-based game, but as you level up, you're allocated skill points, and you can put those skill points wherever you want. So it's a little bit of a hybrid between a flat skill level-based system and a skill-based system. And there's a lot of variety in what you can do. You can really build a character however you wish. Now, there will be builds that are obviously better than others, and you can run the risk with a game like this if you don't do your research of gimping your character. So there's always a downside to it, but the freedom is the upside for sure. So things like medical skills, dirty tricks, there are also mutations that you can have that basically function like spells in any other game. Things like the telekinesis, the ability to heal your friends with nanotechnology, thermal control where you can increase the molecules in the bad guys, heat them up, make them cold, whatever it may be. There's a lot of flexibility in the system that I really like. But the thing I think that is most unique about Fallen Earth is its crafting system and the way that integrates with the world. The world is obviously very unique, very Fallout-esque, post-apocalyptic. I think if you compare the two, then you would say that Fallout perhaps has a more exaggerated world, a more heightened world. Fallout, Fallen Earth feels more realistic, for want of a better word. There's certainly some crazy things in there, like the fact that you are a clone who is being who is part of some company that develops clones, and you have to find out how to live forever and be immortal. There are mutated chickens all over the place and stuff. But if you look at the actual cities and the landscape, Fallen Earth feels a little bit more grounded than something like the exaggerated cities of something like Fallout. That's just broadly speaking, I think. But I think the way the game actually gets to the core idea of a post-apocalypse the best is the crafting system and the way it encourages you from the very beginning to learn lots of different abilities that allow you to create items and take the wasteland and the remnants of civilization and craft your gear. You're interacting with the environment and using it for your benefit, and it does a really good job of that. The town that I started in was very crafter centric. It says that you can choose different ones. There are ones that are more focused on combat and stuff, but I think whichever one you choose, you're going to be doing this. So salvaging items like metal, wood, you're also using geology to mine minerals, these nodes and stuff. And you can really craft your gear. Certainly at the start, there's not a lot of vendors offering armor and stuff like that. And it has this kind of knock-on effect, making you feel like it's this weird hybrid between a survival game and a traditional MMO, where I kind of am expecting there to be thirst and hunger in the game and you having to regulate all that stuff. You don't actually, but the way this crafting system works definitely feels like more like something like Ark that have come along in the intervening years, and it has the effect of making you feel very connected to your character. So by the time I left the starter town, I had crafted all the gear I was wearing. I was using a rifle that I had modified myself and crafted based on the initial rifle. I had a handgun. I was using a plank of wood and a rebar, whatever you call that. And I had also requisitioned a horse, one up from the starter horse. And I felt like I was really setting off into the wilderness at this point, and I'd made it possible through following the quest line and doing stuff that the game was directing me to do. But you have a greater sense of agency in something like Fallen Earth than you do perhaps in a more traditional theme park quest to quest to quest. It's interesting. It does a good job of directing you through all this stuff. I didn't have to do a lot of wikiing, just for specific things like where do I find this particular resource that I need to make this item. But generally speaking, the questing was a lot more solid than I expected it to be. I had heard all these things about the game being very janky, and it certainly is. But in mind-bending ways. It's like the questing, I'd never encountered a quest that broke or anything like that, and the quests dovetail into one another very well. You definitely start to get the feeling it's time to move out of this city and go to the next one. But then you have weird things like every time you go through a doorway, there's a 50-50 chance you're going to get stuck on the door frame, and you have to jump in a very strategic way to get through the door. It's really weird. It's like, how can a game have been in development long enough to create intricate quest chains that dovetail into one another and give you a sense of what you need to do, that are generally well written and can be quite humorous in their tone sometimes, yet you're getting stuck on doors. It's really, really weird in that respect. So I've actually found my time in Fallen Earth very worthwhile, and I think it's a game I'm going to dip in and out of. I really, really like crafting my stuff and getting this feeling that I am surviving on my own resources and my own ingenuity through the crafting system. I think that's the strongest thing in the game. Very, very rewarding, and there seems to be a lot of variety in what you can craft. So the guy that I would say, I didn't just craft the basic pants that are right for my level. I had a selection, so I created a character that I kind of like the look of. He's wearing a dusted trench coat, and yeah, he's wearing a bandana. Like, I like him, and I like the idea of later on you're able to craft things like vehicles and stuff as you get even more better at this stuff. So yeah, there's a lot there to like in Fallen Earth. I think it's definitely one worth trying. If you're interested in game preservation, as I am, I play on emulators like Star Wars Galaxies. There's another one coming out for the Sunsetted MMO, the Warhammer Online MMO. I think game preservation is interesting, and it's is important, and it's good to see a company that actually owns an IP just giving the game to players. I can understand why they took it down, because there were many problems that they wanted to address, and they maybe wanted to do a new version when is it Little Orbit took over, but it's nice to see a company do it who holds the IP and just say, this is for free. That's the other thing, you know, they're not charging anything for it at the moment. But it's kind of, it's strange how things can swing one way to another. Matt Scott, the guy who is shepherding maybe the new version and looking at this one, offering this one back for fun for players to just play for free, has recently muted the idea of using NFTs to fund future development of the game. And things swing from, oh, what a great thing to offer something for free to people, to like weird things like NFTs. I don't think it's a good direction to go in. There are more tried and true ways to get people to fund something. I don't think NFTs bring anything to the table, really. You're looking at the people who are passionate about this game and a real value prospect, rather than this speculative NFT stuff, which I've yet to hear of anyone really. The actual tokens that are being sold don't have any inherent value. It just seems to be people who are interested in speculating and perhaps making money. I don't think it's something that you really want to ally yourself with. If we're talking about gamers having fun with a game, a classic game, and we want to improve it, let's go for things where people are either donating or are getting something concrete back, like a Kickstarter. It has its faults, but people will know what they're getting into there, and they know what the value proposition is, and they know what to expect. There are ways to do it rather than jumping on the current bandwagon of NFTs. But yeah, so Fallen Earth, is it worth playing in 2022? Yeah, I think it definitely is. But I'm coming from a position of someone who likes classic MMOs, is broadly interested in the genre, in games in general, and I like to try things out. And sometimes something has to go away before you realize, look, I need to try this. As you know, it's unique. There are things going on here that aren't in any other game, and I need to give it a go. So I'm glad I have, and I think it's one of those that I'm going to keep on my PC and dip in and out of. definitely give it a go. There's nothing stopping you. It's free at the moment, so you can go to the Little Orbit website and download it. Hope you enjoyed my little kind of overview of this MMO in 2022. I'm planning on doing more videos like this. I think I might broaden my horizons and look at the multiplayer for Project Zomboid and the latest update of Project Zomboid, and that will be interesting. I've got some friends to play that with, so that'd be cool as well. I like these format of videos, just a way to express what you've been doing in games. So thank you for watching. I hope you will sub up and like the video if you liked it, and let me know if you didn't in the comments. That's fine as well. All right, I've been Napyet. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.